your wealth means somebody else's poverty. Where my way is, you can become wealthy and then allow everybody else through your wealth to become even richer. It's not like there's any limit to how much is out there. And it's not like there's any limit to how much money you can have. There are millions and millions of dollars every day that are lost and left lying around, and people die and they just leave it in little sort of carrier bags someplace. You know, there's millions of opportunities for cash at no effort at all. And it's not like you becoming wealthy is going to detract from somebody else at all. Because we're not living in a finite world. We're not living in a world that only has this much resources or this much wealth. There are more resources to be discovered. There are more creative ways of doing things. There's always an ever-expanding amount of wealth. And what you're doing as an individual is, you're saying, listen, I'm happy to concentrate on making money because I understand that if I don't concentrate on making money, I won't have anything. You know, if you concentrate on the phantom rapist comes out the woodwork and bites you on the bum. If you concentrate on money, you get money. But of course the societies and the way we teach our children disengages them from money. It disengages them from having wealth because we teach our kids, hey, it's not okay to be wealthy. You know, the meek will inherit the earth. The God force doesn't want you to be wealthy. It just wants you to be this little thing and being terribly poor and being terribly thankful for the little itty-bitty that you got, you know. But of course, that's not true. That's just a load of hogwash that was handed down over thousands of years. You know, the life force could give a damn how much money you have or don't have. It is not emotionally involved in whether you're okay or not okay. If you're doing splendidly, then your splendidness will help others because you'll be doing economic things, creative ideas, you'll be spending your money, hiring people. You know, you're helping the world by becoming powerful. And yet we look at a physical plane where everything is designed to not allow us to become powerful. As you come into the physical plane, as soon as you're born, or some people would say even before you're born, that mind of yours is beginning to record every feeling, every event, everything that's ever been said to you. And you suck all of that up. You know, you can put a person in a hypnotic trance and you can take them back to when they were 11 years old, to their birthday party or something like that, and you can have them tell you how many people were there, what their names were, how many cans of Coke they drank, how many packets of Jell-O was eaten, who did what. Everything is in your life. Everything is all there. How many steps you took from the parking lot to your seat right now. You have a memory of all of that. And you imagine this small babe, and it's lying there and it's sucking in all this information. Okay, and it's born to parents who think that, like, working hard is honorable, that you have to work hard to make it through the physical plane, you know. Well, let me ask you a question. How many of you here think that you have to work hard to make money, or you've been taught that you have to work hard to make money? Let me see your hands. Okay. You see, they sold you that. They sold you that. The people that run this circle of activity, okay, sold you that because they wanted you to work for them. You know, they wanted you to work hard for them. Okay? And so basically speaking, we buy into that. Working hard is honorable, or working hard is how you make money. Making money has nothing to do with working hard. It's nothing to do with effort or struggle. It's mostly a matter of being balanced and organized. And as you begin to center on your creativity, people show up that want to be a part of that creativity, want to be a part of that action. They feel your security, your strength, and they sign up for it, and they pay you for it. So it's a simple transference of energy. You transfer them an idea, and they transfer you another idea called money. As you look at that, you understand that, like this small child inside this body, it begins to suck in all of these belief patterns, and it has no volition of, you know, as to what is going to go in there. You know, whatever goes in there is whatever goes in there. So if the mum and dad are fighting over the rent, that's in your subconscious mind. You know, if your mother's into sort of saving and clipping little coupons and there's a big stack of them in the kitchen, again, that's in your mind. Save coupons. There isn't going to be enough to eat. You know, reserve this. You know, eat the leftovers. You know, do this and do that. And I'm not saying you've got to waste stuff as you go through the physical plane, because I don't really agree with that either. But we take on whatever our mum and dad or our father and our mother thought. And of course, so many of our fathers and mothers came out of a generation when there was a depression, when there was a great amount of difficulty, and so they're not able to express a more transcendent, more fluid understanding of money. Today we live in the largest and most fast-moving capitalist society in the world, and there's millions, there's billions that are moving around at any one given moment. And yet here is this mind that takes on all this sort of stitch in time, save 9, and a penny saved is a penny earned. And we take on that mentality, and then we wonder when, as we go out into the physical plane, as young adults or as teenagers, or we go out into the workforce, we begin to resonate that into the life force, and the life force, or the energy, that the force field that we're in, reflects back to us exactly what we believe, exactly what we put out there, and it gives us back struggle. It gives us back, there's not enough. It gives us back, work for no wages, save your money in case something dreadful happens, do this and defend that, and if people don't like this or don't like that, sue them for the money or go chase them for the money. But there isn't enough, and that whole energy of like there not being enough and there isn't going to be enough for you to get through is sold to you as a way of disenfranchising and controlling you. Inside this circle, everybody believes life to be real. And the circle is created, as I said, by this electromagnetic energy that leaves your body, which I believe is created by the oscillation of the brain waves. And so as we look in this physical plane, we're looking at a physical plane that deals totally with manipulation, totally with restriction, and totally making sure that you don't come out of the pack. Okay? As you're going through the physical plane, you're taking in everything that you hear, everything that you feel, everything that's ever said to you, and you're also taking in all the rest of the energy. You're taking in energy subliminally. You're taking energy in below your threshold of consciousness that you're not even aware that you're taking it in. And we know from the subliminal tapes that we sell through our catalogs and so on that the mind has an ability to hear affirmations that are placed 40 decibels below regular earshot. And so we have a track of music that rides up and down, getting louder and softer. And underneath this track of music is a loop tape that runs these very powerful affirmations that are designed to create behavioral change. And as that loop rides up and down with the music, it stays 40 decibels at all times below the music, below the earshot. And we know from our research and the research that's been done in various universities in the United States that the inner mind hears that and accepts it. And yet think of you're going through life, and how many sounds and how many feelings and how many opinions are you a part of that are very debilitating, that are very weakening, that you may not have chosen, but that became a part of your mind, Like you'd be at the supermarket, and like somebody in two lines or two aisles further over to the right might sort of pick up a can of beans and go, oh, look at the price of those beans, the world's falling apart, bong. And that would enter your mind if it was 40 decibels below your regular earshot. So you're a product of not only what society has told you can't have, not only what your parents told you couldn't have, but you're also a product of all the thoughts and feelings of the people around you. You can't sit next to somebody in an audience like this and not pick up whatever they are. Their feelings are booming out, and they're pervading your feelings, okay? And if you want to change your seat in the break, feel free, But basically speaking, you're it. If a person touches you, there's an energy transfer. If they look at you, there's an energy transfer. And so can you imagine this young being that's coming into the physical plane, who doesn't have necessarily any experience of how to do it, and being debilitated with all of this stuff, and then going out, putting that energy into the universal law, and getting back exactly what they put in, and they put in for struggle and difficulty and hard work and lack and not enough, and the universal law gives them back that stuff, and then they can say, you see, life's really hard. Okay? And each one of us came out of that same product. So for you to get out of that energy pattern, you have to push against it. You have to literally force yourself to allow yourself to be in control of the money that you make and to master the money. And the mastery of money for me is, as I said, not necessarily becoming very, very wealthy, but being in control so you spend less than you earn, and you earn enough to buy yourself all the experiences that you're ever going to want on the physical plane. When you think about it, you create a creativity, you create a product or an idea, it's energy, it comes from consciousness. Then you take it out to the people, they respond to it positively, and they give you money, which again is energy. Money is neither good nor bad. The folk that said that money is the root of all evil, or the love of money is the root of all evil, they just didn't have any. Because you've got to have money to get through the physical plane. You've got to have it. And of course what happened was that we were taught that somehow money and spirituality didn't mix. And yet when you meet a person that is truly spiritual, they'll have a lot of energy, and so automatically they'll have a lot of money. In the olden days, let's say in 500 BC or something like that, it was fine for a person to withdraw and to go up in the mountain and sit under the banyan tree or whatever they wanted to sit under, and to pull away from the commerce of things and to contemplate upon, the light of God or whatever it is they wanted to do. But you weren't born there. Or if you were, right now you're here. You're in commerce, you're in travel, you're in making things happen. It's a totally different society. And I feel you could transcend by pulling out and sitting up on a mountaintop. But once you had the power, you would have to come back down into the physical plane and do something with it. And so the philosophies that came out of poverty and seeing it as beautiful and seeing it as righteous came out of a time when there wasn't anything to do. Buddha couldn't turn on the video and watch a couple of videos and play his CD player. He only had sitting under the tree. Sitting under the Bodhi tree was the only game in town. So that's what he did, But we're not in that time. We're action-oriented. We've got things to do. There's people you've got to meet. There's things you've got to build and create. There's children that have to be brought up and developed into strong and powerful human beings. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for individuals that are prepared to push against the system without confronting it. Because the system will never look after you. You know, it's not designed to. And if you look at the history of man, all the governments have let all the people down all of the time, you know? And if you don't believe that, you don't know anything about history. You know, you might want to repeat it after me. All of the governments let all of the people down all of the time. Because, basically speaking, governments are individuals that are looking after their own interest. You know, they're looking after their own power unit. They're looking after their own election. They're not worried about whether you're making your mortgage payment, you know, in downtown Arkansas. They could give a damn, you know. They are just worried about their own position. And they get to play the game, and they get to spend your cash, and then they send you, as I've said before, this love letter called a tax bill that you have to pay for their creativity. They don't actually create any wealth for themselves. The wealth of the nation is the individual man, the individual female, the working people of the country. We create the wealth, and they just get to play with it. You know, and the way they play with it is they get to spend it pretty much any way they like. They get to bill you anytime they want to bill you. And if they run out, they just print some more. And so we're looking at a situation where the whole of the circle, the whole of the people that control this circle, the families that run the world, they have a control of the money. And money to the common man is life force. It's God force to a guy that doesn't have a spiritual quest, a person that doesn't have a quest or doesn't have a belief in any kind of higher transcendence. Those people that are purely in the physical plane, money is their God force. And once these people got control of the money, they could control the life force for the world. And then they could control the destiny of the world. And there's none of you here that haven't been controlled by the big families that run the world. Because they decide everything, from the price you pay for a shirt to how much you pay to go to the movies. Everything is decided, and the whole system is designed not for you not to come out of the pack. And as long as you remember that, now you can push against it, and you can say, gosh, that's dreadful, you know, that's awful. Why have they designed it like that? They designed it because they're into control. They're into making sure that none of us ever get out. Okay, and you can push and you can rant and rave and you can have your little placard and you can go down to D.C. and stand there in front of the White House and it won't do anything for you. The only way you can win your freedom is to have enough cash to pull out, okay, and to disengage somewhat from the feelings of the world, from the emotions of the world, so it isn't controlling you, okay? And that, to me, I think is incredibly important because you've been sold this bill of goods that says you can't have it, and then the whole thing is designed, and if any of you do too well, they take the money back from you. All the money you have is basically on rental. You don't have any wealth of your own. I mean, look, for example, in property taxes, okay? They take, let's say, 1% or 1.5% of that property from you every year, okay? And governments go on for hundreds of years, so they can wait to get the house back from you. But they take, let's say, 1% a year. In one generation, they've got a quarter of your house. They didn't do anything for it. They never paid you. I mean, nothing happened. They just took a quarter of your house back. In 2 generations, they got half the house. In 4 generations, they'll own all of the real estate of the country. And that's how property taxes work. You know, so you think they've got your interest at heart? No, they just chip in a little bit of your income back, and they time it or they place it so that it's like this creeping thing that you're never really quite aware of. You know, and then suddenly you think, my goodness me, I've given 9% of my house back to these people. Why did I do that? You know, well, you did it because they passed the law saying you had to do it, and you don't have options. I believe in obeying the laws, but I also believe that you can design your life to take maximum fluidity within the law. You know, within the tax structure, within all of the things that you are allowed to do, that the people that control this circle allow you a certain amount of modicum of like elbow room, and then you use that in order to become powerful. And so, as you look at that, you can see that for you to become powerful, to have enough money, you have to begin, first of all, to look at what's stopping you getting money. You know, what are these feelings inside of me that don't allow me to be wealthy? Because for you to be wealthy and to become wealthy and to have people show up and they want to share their wealth with you, because there's only one place that you can get money, and that's from the other people in the physical plane. Because we're the only people that believe in that stuff, okay? You can't get it from any place else other than the other mugs in the game with us. And so we have this energy that's absolutely neutral, and you have to create an energy from within yourself and then get these people to come along and give you the cash. To do that, you have to look at, hey, what do I really feel? You know, what do I really feel about money? And when you look at how we deal with money, you can see that, like, for example, you may have had feelings, I know I certainly did. I remember thinking that if I became too successful financially, somehow it would pull me out of the society that I lived in. You know, like if I do too well, I might have to leave this ghetto, you know, that kind of feeling, you know? Or if I do too well, all my friends won't like me anymore, you know? Or if I do too well, it may not be as loving or as strong as God might want for me, you know? Because I bought into the fact that God wanted me to be poor, you know? And so as you look at that, you can see that, like, we have hundreds of these limitations. I mean, thousands of them. You know, stitch in time saves 9. You know, there's one. You know, what does that mean, for goodness sake, you know? If the thing tears, chuck it away and buy another one. What are you doing all the stitching for? I mean, who's got time to do stitching and stuff, you know? Oh, stitch. You know, I mean, you get another. It's as simple as that. But we buy that. We buy, for example, things like women are no good at figures, you know, like they're no good at mathematics. That means that somehow or other they're not going to make so much money. And, of course, women are just as good as anybody else with mathematics. You only need an $8 calculator. You can work it up to $10 billion, you know. And I do a lot of business with females, and we travel all over the world, and we use a lot of feminine talent in various areas, and they know how to charge, and, you know, they know how to make it work. I mean, it's simple. It's like, well, here's $1,000, lady, and here's $20,000. Which would you like to have, you know? I mean, it's obvious. You don't have to be brilliant to figure that one out. And so, you know, we buy that stuff. We buy that stuff. We buy, like, getting inside the little circle, getting in the corporation, and taking what they eke out for us, you know? There are other types of limitations that deal with, like, religious beliefs, you know, where if you're not, you know, you're not holy if you're rich, or that kind of thing. And then, of course, we have all the limitations that deal with, well, if I do too well, you know, nobody will like me. If I do too well, it'll be such a responsibility looking after all this cash. You know, how the heck am I going to figure out what to do with all of this money? You know, if I do too well, you know, it will cause me problems. I'll have all these responsibilities. I'll have to defend it and so on. And we buy that stuff. Philosophical limitations about your relationship to money. You know, spiritual limitations of one kind or another. Sexual limitations. You know, maybe if you're a minority, you may feel that in this society you don't have the ability to do as well as the people that are in the majority. Like as if the God force of the money knows what the color of your skin is, you know, and thinks, oh, I'm going to give this guy a hard time because he's different or something like that. And as you look at that, you can see that all of the people out there in a society or in a circle that is not designed for them to do well with anyway, and all of the belief patterns they've got and all of the limitations, you can see that, like, you can understand why the people aren't rich. You know, why they never make any cash. Let me ask you for one or two of, like, those standard limitations that we're all a part of, those limitations that are so much a part of our culture. Perhaps you might like to kind of wander around and pick up a few for me.
Great. Stuart, there's one my mum always used to say, you've got to save for a rainy day.
Absolutely. And if you save for a rainy day, of course it rains, you know, it has to. Because that energy of putting in the negativity pulls to you the rainy day. You know, the very fact that you believe you're going to be a part of a disaster means the disaster will happen. And if you put a whole bunch of dry food in a hole in the ground, you know, because of that energy of defending yourself, you mount 2 machine guns on the roof, you put your granny there defending the house, defending the street, then what happens is that energy pulls to you the disaster because of the negativity that you're putting out. And if you put this dry food in the ground, something will happen, and this moose will come along and it'll do itself on your food, and there goes your stash, or there goes your stock. You know, let me ask you for some others.
If you have any money, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, if you have any money, don't tell anybody, because some reason or other that's going to either make them angry or jealous, or they're going to come around and try to take it from you. Of course, that's a load of nonsense. If you're wealthy, you just feel wealthy. I think you don't want to be brash about your wealth and sort of showy or too showy, but you got to spend it. There's absolutely no point in having money if you don't get rid of it. The whole point of it is to keep it moving and keep it flowing. Money, of course, is like manure. If you pile it all up in one place, it stinks. If you spread it around, it makes things grow. Right? Let's have another one.
It's easier to get a camel through the eye of a needle than a rich man into heaven.
Right, that's a standard one. And, of course, the eye of the needle, I believe, was it not the gate of Jerusalem? And to get a camel through the gate of Jerusalem wasn't a big deal. And if the camel was a bit stubborn, you just had the camel over here, and you take a bucket full of the camel's lunch, and you put it on the other side of the gate, and you go, hither, hither, camel, and it comes along, because that's how they talk in biblical times, hither, hither. And the camel just automatically walks through the gate. And, of course, a lot of our philosophies were designed to make sure that nobody got wealthy. You know, you can imagine how, like, Well, imagine in medieval times when, say, for example, a lot of the churches owned all of the land. I mean, thousands and thousands of acres of land, you know, and the common people were dying of starvation.